A young flick may not have been aware of the existence of Netflix when the Wii first rolled out compatibility, but in the year 2025, it's hard to be unaware of what was once a unique idea to have an application full of movies available through internet connection. Nowadays, streaming services are everywhere you look, as it seems companies try to push us to watch anything they can host. A lot has changed over the years, and it's hard to imagine a time where compatibility with DVDs could make or break a console. But N64 cartridges and GameCube mini CDs were a big turnoff to people desiring to kill two birds, games and media, with one stone like Sony's PlayStation consoles could. The Wii would be Nintendo's first console to debut with normal-sized discs, but still didn't support putting movies on the TV. That is until 2010, when the Wii would become the last of the major consoles to support new instant access movie platforms. First with Netflix, then Hulu, Amazon Instant Video, YouTube, etc. We'd see the Wii U continue the support with the same options, as well as Wii U's very own Nintendo TV. But even the use as a media machine wasn't enough to save the Wii U from its fate, and with this, Nintendo would lose a lot of their leverage negotiating deals with these larger corporations. However, during the rise of the streaming revolution, Nintendo would release their new hybrid console, which came with a built-in kickstand at a lower price point than the tablet market it could be compared to. And this Nintendo Switch would have nothing. The lack of support was to be expected. Many saw their effort on the Wii U as a waste, which is not a sentiment shared only by media streaming companies. But surely as time goes on and Nintendo turns the ship around, managing to become one of the best-selling consoles of all time, the benefit to having your platform available will arise, and they'll come over. We'd see two major platforms come over in the following years with Hulu and YouTube, as we saw the dominance of streaming services during the peak of the Nintendo Switch. People turned away from cable or satellite to streaming, then started using streaming services for the same cable satellite. Every phone carrier came bundled with some sort of streaming. Everybody and their mother started streaming something. But as for the Switch, the same Hulu and YouTube, now joined by Funimation, Twitch, and the now discontinued Pokemon TV. I expected a huge update eventually, and near the end of the original Nintendo Switch's lifespan began to speculate that they were purposefully withholding them as one more selling point for their new console, with work being done behind the scenes. Then the April 2nd Nintendo Direct came, debuting Switch 2, and at the end of a very lengthy portion designated to third-party support, only focused on games, I realized they're really not going to announce streaming services. Which led me to ask myself, does Nintendo need streaming services? Or better yet, do streaming services need Nintendo? It took me all of 30 seconds of deep thought to conclude that the answer to both is no. But just a little more thought had me considering that it might not even be a mutually beneficial relationship. Gone are the days of decisions between consoles coming down to which one can play Blu-ray discs. There's little difficulty in accessing some way to view your favorite service, whether that be a game console, phone, laptop, or even a $30 stick you can have to your door in a day. And odds are, if your TV has an HDMI port or was purchased within the last 10 years, there's some sort of software already packaged in to provide access to these services. So what does it matter whether you launch Netflix off the Switch or off the Roku TV? In theory, Nintendo should want us to drive everything through the Switch. If I'm constantly booting the Switch up anytime I turn the TV on, I'm creating a gateway to funnel people in. But I think being able to capitalize on it is the key difference in why we see Sony double down with the designated media tab. The PlayStation 5 is riddled with game advertisements as soon as it boots up, trying to get you hooked on something before you're even given the opportunity to switch tabs. Then on the media tab, once again Sony gets to try its luck at driving our headspace. As for the Switch, nothing. Unless I'm visiting the eShop, there's no ads, no influence to buy a new game. I might see one of my recently played games that just calls my name, but in the same manner, I might see Netflix and just decide to binge for a while. Seems like a here or there decision. Only a small set of consumers stand very much to gain. What I think becomes the deciding factor? There's always the possibility that Nintendo goes down a path where they're locked into complying with media. If any major streaming service made it to the Switch, they find that hardly anyone is using it, decide it's not worth continuing support, they're subjecting themselves to unnecessary negative headlines if that company doesn't come to the negotiating table as sweet the second time around. As popular as Nintendo is as a brand, social media would never lead you to believe that. Seems like I'm supposed to boycott for a new reason every week. I can just see the anti-consumer complaints now. There's not enough upside to justify it. And perhaps that's the reason that these outliers still existed on the original Switch, a mixture of remaining contracts and anything to prevent negative publicity. However, the indifferent approach is what bothers me. Regardless of their reasoning, at the launch of the Switch 2, Nintendo formally abandoned Crunchyroll and Hulu, leaving YouTube to carry the torch. 3 months later, YouTube's still not available. We just have a tweet from Team YouTube saying that it's in the works. I just want Nintendo to speak on it. Is this an all-purpose bring on the car ride and let me watch my shows? Or is this just a gaming console? Not to say I wouldn't want YouTube to arrive on the platform, but just its presence leads to so many questions. Why arbitrarily stop at videos? Why not welcome back Hulu under the new umbrella of Disney+? Then I'd ask, why is Crunchyroll left out? Google also has YouTube TV. Surely we could get that too, or maybe even YouTube Music, which, if that came over, would lead me to ask, where's Spotify? Unless they get everything, it'll continue feeling like it's incomplete, a lackluster attempt to do both. I understand if striking all those deals is not a desire of theirs, but they should go ahead and set that precedent. If I had to watch YouTube on my phone instead of the Switch on the plane, I would be no worse off. But who's to say I might not take advantage if the option were there? It's just time to either pull the plug or set up some meetings. Speaking of meeting, I hope you'll be meeting me back here 2 Tuesdays from now for another video. Of course, that'll probably only happen if you subscribe, which, as always, is much appreciated. If you wanted to make sure it's worth the subscription first, you could check out my last video where I discussed Nintendo's very own music service, which, like the services in this video, also cannot be found on the Switch too. Either way, you have a good one.